Hello, I'm Allison Berman, and I'm President and CEO of Palisade Capital Management. Welcome to our webinar, Women and Money, Taking the Fear Out of Investing. Before we get started, I wanted to just take a moment to explain why we're even hosting this event and why we will be hosting additional events in the future focused on women and money. You know, many of us grew up at a time where gender stereotypes were pervasive. Some of these we actively fought, others were just a general part of the landscape. Unfortunately, this has left many women in a position where they don't take control of their finances or actively manage their investments. Whether you're just starting your career, you suddenly find yourself divorced or widowed, or you're taking care of aging parents, you need to be able to understand your finances and make sound decisions. The good news is we're here to help. At Palisade, we work every day with women and their families to help them understand their financial goals and meet those goals over time. We also take care of all the investments because, let's be honest, no one has time to do that in addition to everything else. So, before we now kick it off with my wonderful colleagues, I also wanted to take a moment to note that we have partnered with the Women's Rights Information Center of Englewood, New Jersey. The WRIC is a nonprofit. We've been able to spend some time with the wonderful folks there. Later in the webinar, you'll hear a little bit more of exactly what they do and how your participation today will help support them and the individuals that they serve. So, I think you've heard enough from me. I want to hand it off to my colleagues, Lorraine Salvo, Amritha Thapa, and Catherine Carpenter. I must say it is a privilege to work with each of them every day. They bring extensive knowledge and experience to the table, and each plays a critical role in our private wealth management business. So I will let them take it away.
Thanks, Allison. Hi, everybody. It's great to have you all here. I'm Lorraine Salvo, Head of Financial Planning, along with my colleagues.
I'm Catherine Carpenter. I handle client relations here at Palisade, and my role is to make life a little easier for our clients.
I'm Amrita Thapa, and I work with our clients to customize their investment proposals and monitor the investment strategies on our platform.
So let's get this started. Why are we here today? In honor of Women's History Month, we wanted to get together to have a conversation that we hope will empower you to make decisions regarding your finances. As Allison mentioned, we are partnering with the Women's Rights Information Center, otherwise known as RIC. This New Jersey-based nonprofit organization has provided services for economically disadvantaged individuals in need of work readiness skills, community resource options, and the rebuilding of self-confidence. When asked how we can help RIC, they mentioned that hygiene products is one item that many of their individuals that they support request. We figured this would be the best time to partner with them and make a donation. So for every registrant that has registered today, we will be donating a product, and we're happy to say that we have 113 registered. A little housekeeping before we begin. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section of the webinar. And also, for anyone joining us on your computer, please exit full screen mode to get the full experience of this webinar. And now let's kick things off with our first polling question. What holds you back from investing? Please select all that apply to you.
Interesting. Okay. We're going to give everybody another second. Okay. Interesting. Not super surprising though, right, ladies? So the top answer by far, fear of losing money. Well, let's face it, if you don't understand investing, if you're intimidated by it, if you feel uncomfortable about the whole topic, the last thing you want to do is put your money towards it and feel like you might lose it, right? So that is a big part of why we're here today and why we felt this was so critical to, really to just have this dialogue with Women's History Month this month, and you'll be seeing, lots of events all over the place. I've already seen a lot of things on social media and other, other places too. It's great that they're getting so much attention.
And I feel like all of these reasons really stem around fear, mismanagement, fear of losing money.
Well, I feel as women, it's our nature that we're afraid to lose money. We think we're gonna end up living in a cardboard box and we're gonna lose our nest egg.
Yeah, I think some of the issue too is just being uncomfortable with the terminology, just, not knowing what the jargon means and being, kind of unsure of that and really not sure who to ask and not even get started because it really is kind of overwhelming.
Yeah. And also just a final reason is that some of us don't have the money to invest because we're not as focused on saving.
That's true. I think it's interesting because I think the next slide really helps us kind of put everything in perspective. Eventually, most women in the US will end up in charge of their wealth. Women in traditional marriages tend to outlive their spouses. We generally know women live longer than men by about 6 years. And the average age of widowhood is 59.
I was very surprised by
Yeah.
that statistic. I mean, you expect to, be with your husband through retirement, and 59, it just
That's
seems really young.
Really young. And I also feel that during this, the great wealth transfer that we're seeing where women are inheriting significant wealth from their parents and also their spouses, it's really important to be financially knowledgeable.
And as you said, Catherine, it's so important that women are empowered to get involved and really learn the language to participate in these discussions, especially as we look at these stats. I mean, married households led by women increased from 8% in 1990 to 43% in 2021.
I think of a lot of my friends, many of them are also the breadwinners in their households. So it's no surprise to see that stat.
And luckily for me, I mean, my background is investing. That's my area of expertise. And I've actually been able to help, friends, family, and even some coworkers along the way.
And then with the average age of widowhood at 59, I mean, this resonated with me especially because my mom and my mother-in-law were both left widows and in charge of their finances and really have been clueless about it all. Fortunately, they have me to guide them and help them along the way, but it leaves them with a big burden.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And 30% of women never married, and over 50% of marriages end in divorce. That's not a statistic that's really new. It's kind of remained pretty constant, although I think we've all heard the stories of people getting divorced during the pandemic because nothing makes you realize that you don't want to be with someone until you have to spend every single day and night in the house with them. So there was definitely an uptick there. I'm a divorced person myself, and I also work with divorced people in terms of, their financial planning and just getting a handle on what life is going to look like from a financial perspective post-divorce. The goals change, cash flow needs change, everything changes. And, another point is the team around a family, the accountant, the attorney, insurance professionals, anyone else, typically, in my experience, have been selected by the husband. So you don't have a relationship with these people. So, you really need to help in building that team around you to make sure that you're getting where you want to be.
Well, Lorraine, this week I'm just going to share something personal. My husband has been traveling all week long, and I really found a sense of appreciation for women like you that are handling everything. Even just taking out the trash was something that he would do. And I'm like, oh my God, tomorrow is trash day. I gotta run all over the house, picking up the trash, so,
Yeah, that's why I put the kids to work.
yes.
So, but no, it's
It is.
true. It is definitely an adjustment for sure. But
So-
you're not alone.
No, absolutely. So how do we overcome fear? We know that fear is what holds us back. And the greatest killer of fear is knowledge, empowerment.
And really, the first thing to understand is when you invest, of course, there are risks. It's scary getting off your sofa or, your bank account somewhere safe and really getting on a roller coaster, right? Investing may feel like a roller coaster. They're scary. But, what we've seen in the equity markets, while they go up and down, they generally end up in a safer place at the end. And really what determines that roller coaster ride is your asset allocation, which we're going to discuss. And for different asset allocations, and there are different goals and there are different roller coasters for us to get through.
Sometimes I feel like I want to be on the kiddie one,
Oh, definitely.
especially at my age now.
And here are three important investment concepts that it's really necessary to understand. It's asset allocation, identifying your investment goals, and compounding interest. So we're going to first kick it off with, what is asset allocation? What does that mean? It's normally considered one of the most important drivers of investment success. So when you think about asset allocation, and I always think it's easier when I do investment proposals, we have, a pie chart, right? When we think about pies, when we bake a pie, we need certain ingredients: flour, sugar, eggs. So similarly, investments can be comprised of stocks, bonds, and cash, and they all go in to this pie. So Kat, why don't you explain what a stock is for us?
All right. Well, stocks, otherwise known as equities, are direct ownership of a company. So let's take Apple, for example. When you buy a share of Apple, you are buying ownership of Apple. So let's say Apple releases a new product, or there's change in leadership within the company, the price of the stock is going to go up or down according to the sentiment of the market. And with that, why don't we explain what a bond is? Lorraine, you want to take
Sure,
that?
absolutely. So bonds, also known as fixed income, are really just loans. So when you're buying a bond from, say, Apple, in our example, you're actually loaning Apple your money that you will then get back at a later date with interest.
And really, it's not an advertisement for Apple. So the third asset class is cash, which is very conservative. I think we all are very comfortable having it in a bank account, a money market. A big problem with women is that we tend to like to have a lot more cash than we actually need. So when we look at the whole asset allocation, it's really a mix of these three components. And it's just the way that your investments are divided amongst the three. And that's really going to depend on your time horizon, your risk profile, and your goals. And that's really going to move us on to the next topic, which is identifying your investment goals. So we like to show it. These are three different money bags, as I'd say. The first bucket is really your emergency money. So, when stuff hits the fan, you need to have cash on hand, right? We typically suggest keeping 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses saved, and that's all. It's really important to note that women have a tendency of keeping too much cash for emergencies, CDs, bank accounts. Some keep it under the mattress.
Agnes.
You're a nest egg, right? But it's important to diversify and not just have it in cash. So on the extreme, on the other end, is your retirement money. So this is money that you're not going to use for a very long period of time. You're not going to see it for a while. So when we're talking about your retirement money, we really want you to have a higher mix of stocks, compared to bonds. So we like to call it 90-10 or 80-20.
And for those that don't know what that means, the first number is the percentage of stocks that you own, and the second is a percentage of bonds.
So just going back for a second to the last largest, what are we calling them?
Money
Buckets?
bags.
Money
Money
bags,
bags.
money bags, old money bags. Your retirement money, it is important to think of your money in three different buckets like this, because it's all about the role that each bucket is playing for you at this time, right? So cash is liquid, it's available to you. Moderate, also available to you, but you want some growth. And then retirement, assuming you still have many years left in your career, you want this to grow. You can take more risk on this. And frankly, you need to take more risk on this because you can withstand the ups and downs in the market. You're going to have a long life, hopefully, and you need this money to be available to you later. And for traditional IRAs, 401ks, this money is growing tax deferred. You'll pay taxes when it comes out. Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, we're hearing a lot more about these days. That's going to go in after tax. So when money comes out, there's actually no tax due, which is in some ways even more attractive.
And for the younger people on the phone, it's really important to start putting money in your 401k as soon as possible. And really, if there's a match in the office, you should absolutely hit the match, because what we are actually recommending eventually is that women actually need to keep about 15% of their savings and put it away for retirement, because women do outlive men.
And it can happen over time, right? So if you get a promotion and you get a salary increase, it's a good time to start adding back into that retirement account, increasing that percentage each year.
Absolutely. And that leaves us kind of with the middle bucket, which is, I would call your life money. You still want it to grow. You might be saving some money for kids or a home, but it's really going to be based on what your timeline of your goals are. But we generally like to have that in the moderate category. So 60% stocks, 40% fixed income, or 50-50, maybe even better, just given what cash you may need or how liquid you want it to be. And you have to remember that all of this money is available to you, and if needed, can be sold at certain times. So, again, I think this goes back to, giving yourself the gift of time. So compounding is so important as an investment topic. As you can see in this simple example, $10,000 invested at 7% gives you $42,415. That same $10,000, if it's only in like a checking account, earning you 1%, you're really only getting $12,357. And when these numbers get bigger, let's say 100,000, you're going to make 424,000. So it's super very important for you to start investing early. And even, at our age, it's super important to invest, because at the end of the day, we may still have 30 years to go.
And don't have too much money in lower yielding accounts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to go into our next polling question. So everyone has different reasons for saving and investing. What are yours? Please choose your top 3.
Right. Okay, we're going to give everybody another second here. Very interesting.
Wow.
It's like the numbers
40.
keep moving around.
Yeah, let's give it another second, because we have we can
We're getting
see
some
how
great
many people
results.
answered. Okay. All right. So it
Right.
looks like, not surprisingly, retirement is a big concern, of course. Not running out of money is also key. And, making sure that you're feeling secure with your financial situation. They feel independent. You don't have to depend on anyone, right? We as women, everybody depends on us. We hate depending on other people. We hate asking for help. I know I'm guilty of that.
My favorite is travel the world. I'm with the 40%.
Right, exactly. So, this this is very important to think about in the context of a financial plan. Of course, this is where, where my heart is. And one of the things that really is so critical to understanding really where you want to go with your money and what you want it to do for you is understanding where your money is going now. And I laugh with my colleagues here because when I work with clients on putting a plan together, and I say, okay, well, one of the first steps is to put a budget together. And most people don't have a budget, and they kind of look at me like, oh, do I have to?
It's such a daunting.
It is. It is. But look, it's really just meant to bring awareness to where your money is going. And it's not necessarily about every coffee, every newspaper, whatever it is, little things you buy. It's the broad strokes. It's, the dining out, the travel, anything relating to kids, right? And household. Those are typically the, and groceries. Those are typically the largest line item expenses. Of course, everybody's a bit different, but once you know where your money is going, then you can really say, okay, where can I tweak if I need to? Where can I tweak? Where can I trim? And where am I willing to not actually make any changes?
And it can be eye-opening, I think. I mean, if you're spending lots
Yeah.
of money on DoorDash and Uber Eats, you may think twice
Yes.
before doing that next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that happen for sure. So, retirement is the other piece, right? Everyone is thinking about retirement. And, let's face it, the traditional definition of retirement from years ago has really evolved. Very few people are able to retire one day. They're working one day, they retire, then they don't have to work at all for the rest of their lives, and they have a full pension. They have all of their income replacement taken care of. That's really not the case anymore. Plus, we're living longer, and people have other interests that they want to pursue in retirement. So, retirement now is less of like a kind of a black and white, two sides of the coin, and rather a gradual progression to having more free time, having more flexibility. So, I think going to consulting, we see a lot of our clients work, they don't want to stop working. They love what they do. So is there a way to have more time, but also earn some money? Going on boards, volunteering, with charities that are near and dear, and helping with family, help raising their grandchildren.
I mean, I think with the cost of childcare these days, we're seeing that more and more. Where people are, families are relying on the parents to help them as well.
No, absolutely. It's very true. And so the point being, you have to know where you want to go in order to try to get there. And to that point, these are a lot of the things I look at when I do a financial plan. So the idea is that most of us, and this is definitely my experience in working with clients for, nearly 20 years now, is just, we all have busy lives, men, women, everyone in different walks of life. And, if we feel we've done a good job, we've saved for retirement, we have insurance policies, property and casualty, life, long-term care, whatever the case may be. We have our estate planning done, we have our will and other documents put together. We generally know what we're spending, or at least we will, going through the process. And we know where we want to get to. But has anyone actually looked at everything together as one, as a professional, to make sure that it actually integrates as you want it to? And that's really what I do. And it's very eye-opening because there are often gaps, vulnerabilities, areas that really can be improved upon to streamline everything and to make sure that everything is in fact placed the way you intend it to be. We all get busy, so sometimes, estate planning documents were actually never signed off on, for example. So these things are really important just to check. So it's kind of like a financial planning, roadmap that you end up with after the fact to really know where you go next. And the next piece, because when I do the plan, it's, all about understanding where you are, where you want to go. Well, the investment portfolio is really the engine for that plan. And that's where this work comes in.
I think, this approach that we use very similar to what others do, but asset allocation, again, is the key driver, right? 90% of your investment returns are really based on asset allocation. We work with our clients to kind of manage the roller coaster, understand the levels of risk that you would be comfortable taking. And as we mentioned, you're going to have different money buckets, and we work with each of those in different ways. And when we manage your assets, we really believe in active management. It really does tend to protect you on the downside. So, we want to limit those downside returns. And overarching, we review, what's happening in the macro environment. We have viewpoints on where we want to be invested. And most importantly, as a client, we want you to understand what you own and why. This really helps with your expectations on how investments will perform during market cycles. And we really, as we've said, it's so important for women to understand and be involved in that. It may not be your favorite thing to do, understanding the investments, but at the end of the day, it is the engine that helps you to reach your goal.
Absolutely. And now this leads us to the third polling question that we have. Have you ever experienced any of the following significant events? Please check all that apply.
A lot of you have gotten new jobs. It's great economy right now.
Look at all these events that have happened to all of us. It's true. As these events occur, it's important to monitor. Actually, did we stop it? Yes. It's important to monitor and reassess your investment strategy. Here at Palisades, I handle client relations, and I'm often one of the first to hear about these events in your lives. And it's my responsibility to bring this to the team, and together we will provide recommendations and guidance. And for example, if I hear of a client that has a planned retirement coming up, it's a good opportunity to discuss that asset allocation and determine if we need to make changes or if there's future income needs that will come up from this retirement. And that will dictate how we invest the portfolio.
And absolutely. And the key thing is that you do need to reassess where you are on an ongoing basis. It's not set it and forget it. The same way that we would look to see what's always happening in the market and adjust our investments, so too do you need to kind of look at your financial situation and make adjustments to asset allocations or income needs that you may need going forward. And we're going to go to the fourth polling question.
This is our final poll.
While watching the news during breakfast, you learn that the stock market has dropped 15%. How do you react?
I like these answers so far.
I like these answers. We were hoping you would be sipping your coffee as you go along this process. Even better, buying some more stocks, and that's what the results are showing us.
I'm really glad that no one told their kids that they can't go to college. So we don't want any tears at the breakfast table. So
And just looking at this chart, so I feel like this chart's very important for us to understand. If you had 10K invested over the past 20 years in the equity markets, you would have achieved 64,844. But if you miss the top 10 best days, that value would actually go down to 29,708. And remember, in 2020, the second best day happened immediately after the second worst day. So it's important not to time the market and really stay invested through the ups and downs. Not just that, but 7 of the 10 best days actually took place in a bear market.
Should we explain what a bear market is?
Absolutely.
So think of a bear's claws go down, that means the market is dropping. And in a bull market, the bull's horns are going up, and that means the market is rising up as well.
So it's also good to remember that when the market goes down, you don't have actual losses. Those are called unrealized losses. They're not real until you sell out of the investment. So if you continue to stay invested, you can ride that roller coaster right back up. And what we've seen a lot is emotional investing. We've seen a lot of clients, they have a tendency of selling at the low points and then buying at the high points. It's literally the opposite of what you want to do. And I'm really happy to see the results today. That was amazing. So Lorraine, I'll turn it over to you.
okay. So, I think that one of the main things we're really proud of is being fiduciaries. It's important to work with someone that has your best interests at heart all the time, and can be transparent and objective, as we can here at Palisade. And I think we've talked a lot about the types of things we do, the types of things we can help with. But I think one of the most compelling things for me is, especially when I talk to young people who say, oh, I'm just not interested in this stuff. Money gives you choices, right? And by understanding just enough to ask the right questions, you don't have to understand all of it, right? It's just, by even participating today, you're taking a step in understanding more. Hopefully you learned something or a few things today. And we're in a moment going to have a chance to answer your questions as well. But we could just go to the next slide. I think this is really what we do, right? So there's the investing part, like Allison said when she kicked us off, right? Obviously that's kind of our bread and butter in our over 25 years here in business at Palisade. But these are so many of the things we help our clients with because we have to treat the whole person, kind of like the doctor, right? So there are so many other things that go into your financial well-being that need to be addressed. So we can't just live in that investment silo.
Of course, at the end of the day, we're here to support you as the client and your family and be a resource, educate you along the way, and do a little hand holding so it doesn't seem so scary.
And actually, there has been a study that actually Vanguard did where they saw that the added value of an advisor actually gave clients over a 3% return above, because the advisor tends to keep you
From those
Straight and
emotional,
narrow.
keeping you
Emotional
emotionally
decisions.
without making emotional investments during the wrong times. Absolutely.
So there you have it. Look, your money matters. It is a tool for prioritizing your goals, and you need to invest in you. We are going to pivot over to some questions. And would welcome you to go ahead and enter your questions into the Q&A. And it looks like we got a question. Here's our first question. Oh, interesting. Okay. How much do I really need to understand to feel more comfortable with my finances? I find this stuff generally pretty boring. Sorry, we get it. I could start this one. We hear this a lot. And, you know, I personally feel like I should always have a good answer to this question because, you know, there have been so many times where I've introduced financial planning to, let's say, a couple, and you know, 9 times out of 10, the husband kind of in a traditional relationship will be part of the dialogue, and the wife will say, you know, I'm not interested in this stuff. You know, I don't want to talk about stocks and bonds, and I just have no interest in it. And I say, give me 5 minutes. And then she sees that we're not just talking about stocks and bonds. We're talking about all the things we talked about, right? We're talking about your spending, your goals, the kids, legacy. What happens if, you know, he predeceases you? Then what? You know, you need to make sure that you have a handle at least on what to do or who to call, right? You know, that you have a team around you who can help you know, and ask questions too. So I think we got another couple questions here.
Next one, let's see. What can I do to help my kids have good spending habits? Well, you can avoid the Apple Pay like I do, but no, honestly, I think it's starting early, having those conversations. Many of us don't talk to our kids about, you know, finances and, you know, why we should not buy something or how we should, you know, for example, my kids are teenagers and will be starting their first job. So what to do with that first paycheck is going to be it's going to be a big lesson for us that hopefully they will carry through for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
we do have a few more questions. Why do stocks go up? It seems like it's a crapshoot. I wouldn't say it's a crapshoot, but look, stocks go up because of revenues and earnings of each of those companies, right? Are they producing cash flows? And certain stocks, I'm sure you've all heard of NVIDIA because it's shot up significantly. There's a trend of artificial intelligence, and that trend is having people buy that stock and it's going up. That's also backed by the earnings and the revenues that are coming from that stock. So I don't think it's a crapshoot. I think that, you know, buying into the right stocks over time creates real value for you and your investment portfolio.
I'll take the next question. What role does insurance play in my planning? So I am not a huge fan of annuities generally, or whole and universal life with a, you know, a cash value savings component to the insurance, because those are really hybrid insurance investment products. However, insurance can be really critical. I mean, you know, if you have small children, or let's say school age children, right, you know, prior to college, and you have a mortgage, if the primary wage earner, or frankly, the stay-at-home parent suddenly passes away, you need a way, you know, very practically speaking, to replace that income. So term insurance, meaning pure insurance, which is generally really inexpensive, is such a critical piece of your plan. Often employers will offer supplemental coverage as well. It's usually free up to about 2 times salary, and then you can buy into more, which again tends to be pretty inexpensive. And then that can drop off later. So it's kind of serving its purpose while your kids are young, while you have the mortgage, and then it can fall off. Long-term care insurance is also you know, something to talk about, because as women live longer, I mean, me personally, I have kids, but I'm an only child and I'm not married. So, if something, if I live as long as I think I am going to live and want to live, I am going to need some sort of safety net to take care of me. And I just don't want to leave my kids to have to deal with that. So for me, long-term care insurance makes sense. It doesn't have to make sense for everyone. Yes, it can be expensive, but there are pros and cons to everything. But I think it is something that's actually pretty interesting.
Amrita, someone asked, what is best practice when deciding which stocks to invest in?
Well, that's a very important question. I think, the way we believe in active management, our philosophy is really driven by quality and profitability stocks. So what we're really looking at is certain metrics. So when we're looking at the financial statements of a stock, we're looking at how much cash, how much cash flow are they getting from operating activities? How are they reinvesting that cash flow? The return of equity. So there's certain profitability and quality metrics that we're looking for when we invest in those stocks. And we can, again, we can talk about that more in one of our future discussions.
And, there's a question about how much money would be a good initial starting point with Palisade. Do we have a minimum? So our stated minimum for private wealth clients is 3 million in assets. We will definitely work with less. We can work with 1 million, but it has to be a good fit, meaning, we really like to work with clients who are, very focused on preserving capital, and kind of taking, let's say, a moderate risk return type profile. We're not shooting for the heavens here. We're trying to preserve and grow the money that you have worked so hard to build over time. But happy to answer any questions, or even provide a second set of eyes on what you're doing now. I'm happy to do that with anyone. Amrita, maybe this is a good one for you. How worried should I be about inflation? Why are stocks a good hedge against inflation?
Absolutely. So, obviously inflation has been a big concern recently with where the CPI numbers have been. I think what has happened,
CPI, for those that don't know,
consumer
Sorry.
price inflation. So it's how the price of goods have increased. And what that really means is that the cost of, or your expenses are going up, right? Bonds, unfortunately, at this time are not able to make up for that inflation. They're giving you basically a little bit over inflation. Stocks are always a good hedge because stocks actually will earn above inflation. So, the average return, of the S&P 500 historically has been around 9%. So that is generally going to outperform inflation over long market cycles. Again, another reason why, stocks should always be part of your portfolio.
I'll take the next one. Starting a business. I have savings with my spouse, etc. I would love to use my money and not our money. What should I do? Should I borrow from or take from? So this is kind of a very specific question, but generally speaking, I think it actually raises a good point, which is you should have your own money. So even if you have a very secure marriage and there's no question in your mind that you're stable, you should have your own money and you should know your own credit score. You should build your own credit. Your credit cards should not only be the spouse card that comes with your spouse's credit card. Because what happens is when you get divorced, as I found out, luckily I had credit cards in my name as well, but all those credit cards go away. And therefore your credit score could actually suffer as a result. So, of course, credit score is what is used to base, loans on mortgage, if you move, right, and you want a new home, car loans, so many things, right? Different rates that could be more preferential to you if you do have better credit.
And I would just say, typically we don't want you to take that money out of retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks. I mean, obviously, if you had any stocks or generally taxable accounts, that's the place that you want to take your money out first before you start hitting up your retirement accounts, because you don't want to take taxes out of there.
What about someone who has already retired? How much maintenance is needed? This can kind of go to
Yeah,
both
so
of you.
it's such an individual question. That's why it's not a one size fits all answer. That's why you have to do your budget. You have to know what's coming in, what's going out, and where is it going, right? Because there's discretionary expenses and then there are fixed expenses where you can't just decide not to pay taxes this year because it's not in the budget, right? So, but there are certain things that can be tweaked to help you get closer aligned to the goals that you would like to reach. So it really is a case by case situation. That's why planning is so critical. And then, just to kind of go into the next one, how much money should I have in a retirement account? And what's the difference between an IRA and a Roth? So honestly, as long as you have something in a retirement account, that's a start, right? It's going to grow. You want to make sure it's invested, that it's not sitting in cash. And the IRA and the Roth IRA are very different. So Roth IRA means the money has already been taxed. Then the money goes into the retirement bubble and it grows tax-free, completely tax-free. When it comes out, it's also tax-free. So you get all the earnings and the principal when you need to take it out at retirement, completely tax-free. The IRA is pre-tax money. So you put before tax money, so you get a paycheck, you get paid $100, you take $5 off your paycheck and you divert it into your IRA, let's say. That money is pre-tax, so it's coming off the top. So it's growing tax deferred. So you're getting earnings over time, right, between now and retirement. When you take that money out, it is taxable to you. So it's like income, because it really at that point is income replacement.
And Lorraine, can you talk about the limits on a retirement account?
Sure, if I can remember them offhand, Pat. So they're around 8,000. I think that's with the catch up for over 50.
Yeah.
So I think 7,500 for IRAs. There are income limits in terms of whether it's deductible for taxes or not. A Roth IRA, they've raised everything, so it's easier to contribute to a Roth now. You can also do Roth conversions, which is a separate webinar. But definitely you want to be mindful of the tax piece, what makes sense for you, given the tax rate you're in now versus where you think you'll be in retirement, and just make sure you do it. That's really the best advice on that.
And then I'm late to the party. Where do I start?
Well, I think as we talked about, I would look at the money bags, right? You start with, do you have 3 to 6 months of an emergency cash for any expenses? Then, depending on your job, are you putting away money for retirement? Or as Lorraine said, do it yourself, right? You have to put it in an IRA directly yourself. And then after that, any excess savings you can put into a taxable account and invest for you. So I think those are the starting steps, and then you kind of take it from there.
And this next one could
Yeah,
be a good one for you to
absolutely.
answer. As a new head of household from divorce, what advice would you give on the initial steps?
Okay, so it's like a blank slate, right? So everything is new and everything is different. Your budget is going to look different. Your priorities have realigned, and everything has changed. Even for the things that haven't really changed, the way you view everything has changed. It's just what happens. It's a life event, right? And you take it as an opportunity to reassess where you want to go and how you're going to get there. And, this is a lot of what I do in working with clients, because I think it's very difficult to do that in your own head. You need someone to bounce ideas off of and to brainstorm with and to say, I can't do everything all at once. Help me prioritize. I think that's where it gets really overwhelming, because you know, you're trying to, so much is changing so fast. And so many of the decisions you have to make are financial in nature that it can be really stressful. And you know, even as a financial person, I can say it's very stressful from a financial perspective. You know, so it's definitely not something to do alone. You know, once you're done with the divorce, it's not over. You know, you're rebuilding your life. In some cases, women are maybe in a better situation, the same or worse. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it, right?
And someone just wrote, remember to tell this woman to breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe. It's a big change in your life,
Yes.
divorce, and you know,
Yes, breathe
breathe.
and rely on each other. I mean,
Yeah.
how often do we all say that, right? You know, it's so
Absolutely.
critical. We have to support each other, talking to other people. How did you deal with it? You know, how did you handle
Yeah.
this? What did you do? And it just helps guide you to figure out what the right path is for you,
Absolutely.
which may be something different, but at least it helps you feel like, all right, I'm
I'm
not
not
the
alone.
only one dealing
Mhm.
with this. Exactly.
Exactly. I'm
Right.
not alone through this.
Yeah.
What's a good amount to start with? I think this goes to what you were just saying earlier,
I,
the 3 to
But
6 months.
I think the, you know,
Yeah.
again, I think, you know, it goes to which
And-
money bag should be done first.
Both
The first
in
money
hand.
bag that should be done is that emergency cash, that 3 to 6 months of saved expenses. So you put that in, maybe put it in a money market account right now that's earning, you know, 5%. You take that money and you keep it aside for any emergencies that come in. After that is then when you can start start investing some of that money when you've kind of hit that 3 to 6 months. And that's really going to depend on your individual situation and how much, you know, your monthly expenses are. So I think, you know, you can start with any dollar amount you can, you know, start investing with on your own. Yeah.
But I would add another point, because if you have credit card debt that's not consolidated, typically the rates are in the high 20%.
Mhm.
That comes first,
Great point. Yeah.
because that you are losing money by having credit card debt. So as much as we would love to say, you know, emergency savings are great,
Yeah.
it's savings. You really can't save until you get that
Debt.
debt taken care of. And as you start chipping away at that debt, keep an eye on your credit score. You know, wherever you're starting, it's okay, but just start, right? Just start and be aware of where you're at and say, okay, I accept it. This is where I am. I'm going to improve upon this. And we can help you get there. When is our next webinar?
Yeah, well-
I don't know. But you're all on the mailing list, so you'll be the first to know, we
Yeah.
promise. So we're
Yeah.
thinking, you know, another 3 to 6 months, something like that.
Absolutely.
Please fill out the survey. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear about. And what you liked, what you didn't like. And we just
And
so
we'll make sure to
appreciate,
cover that in the future webinars.
we so appreciate you spending an hour with us on this rainy, well, wherever you are, it's rainy here, rainy Wednesday.
And cheers to National Women's Month.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, ladies. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.